Would you rather Penn State keep tradition with a night whiteout or see them use it against Ohio State at noon instead of the Minnesota game? Watching from Nashua, New Hampshire. I believe Dunder Mifflin had an office there. Okay, look, here's the dilemma. Most of you are unfamiliar with what's going on. This is a big deal at Penn State right now. As you know, they do one whiteout game per year. It's a spectacle unlike anything you will see in college football. This is actual footage, if you're watching on YouTube, from the iJosh. I'm holding it in my hand. I'm on the field. This was from last year. When Auburn was in town, magical. Beyond description. Doesn't matter if you watch it on TV. You just need to go see it in person. You will never ask why it's a big deal again if you go see it in person. Well, here's the dilemma. That's not the dilemma. Everyone agrees it's awesome. The dilemma is every Penn State fan and their mother wants the whiteout game to be Ohio State, right? That's the biggest game on the schedule this year. And then Fox comes along, and you know what Fox did? They pulled the big noon kickoff card out of their back pocket, wham, and they just smack it on your forehead. And then the powers that be in State College said, we're not going to have a noon kickoff be the whiteout game. It's got to be under the lights. Kind of an unwritten rule. They have not always adhered to it, as records have shown, but they made the Minnesota game the whiteout game. That's October 22nd. And so you've got a sharp divide amongst Nittany Lion faithful right now. Why is this a big deal? Well, I can sentimentally tell you it's a big deal because it's insane. This is one of those spectacles in college football in which the audience, the fan base, they actually have a tangible impact on the game. I know if you do not attend college football games and you just watch them on TV, or you don't get into this sort of thing, you think it sounds so stupid to say that. It may sound stupid, I'm just telling you it's real. But don't take my word for it. I have this trusty piece of paper in my hand, which Stats and Info has handed me. If you don't believe the whiteout has a tangible impact on games, then you tell me, sir, how this happens. Penn State has held every opponent below their seasonal scoring average during whiteout games, except 2013 against Michigan, and that was an overtime game. So every opponent that's come in there and faced that environment has been held below their seasonal scoring average, except one time, and that was an overtime game, so we don't even count that. Also, if we're talking about the Buckeyes specifically, Ohio State has been a whiteout victim a lot. 2014, 2016, and 2018. 3 consecutive trips to Happy Valley. Ohio State is the whiteout game. They were held to 15.8 points less than their average over that span. So you can either get into the emotional side and just say, I want it to be the whiteout. Or you can be like me and you can say, look at the numbers. This is a real thing now. It's not just something made for TV. It's an actual weapon that Penn State has to use against an opponent. You can't do it every week or it wouldn't be a weapon. But they choose one night per year, or maybe a date per year, to pull it out. So producer Jesse, a Nittany Lion himself, he is very, very conflicted over this. He's been talking about it to me for a solid week. Like I text him, what should we eat tonight? Well, it's not going to be a whiteout, I know that. Jesse is very, very torn. And I have found, I was texting back and forth with Sean Fitz today, who we wish good luck to on his future endeavors. Just because he's not going to work here anymore doesn't mean I don't have his phone number. And I will abuse it as I see fit. So I was abusing it earlier tonight, and I said, Fitz, if we were to split the entire fan base, 15-year-olds, 50 years old, 150 years old if they exist, I want to know what the split is. How many of those folks up there think that the whiteout game should be the Ohio State game, even though it's a noon kickoff? And he said, well, first you would have to debate them for an hour on how the Ohio State game shouldn't be a noon kickoff. Then if you got through all that, you'd probably get 60-40 in favor of making the Ohio State game the whiteout game, even though it's a noon kickoff. Here's the thing. You know I'm all about tradition, love tradition. This kind of stuff makes college football unique. That's why I'm into it. All the traditions, I'm into them. It's just that this one's a little more awesome than most. I am a believer that with most rules, there should be a built-in exception to the rule. Shouldn't be commonplace. But with most rules, you can have an exception to that rule, especially if you create the parameters. Like, this is not a law. It's not the speed limit. And we're saying, you know what, I'm going to choose to do 90, but just one day out of the week. You get to make the rules. You are Penn State. You get to make the rules. So you can make it a general consensus that, yeah, the whiteout game's going to be a night game. But to me, this is one camp says there needs to be this little lever over here that we can pull just in case we have a home schedule that screams Ohio State's the biggest game by 10 miles, and we can make it a whiteout game even if Fox pulls the big noon kickoff card out of their back pocket. There's that camp, and then there's the camp that's pure tradition. And they say, nope, we're going to have that thing at night. But the thing about it is, it hasn't always been at night. I was very surprised to find how many whiteout games have been held during the day. So where do I come down on this? Famously, I like to ride the fence on these sorts of things because on one hand, I really want you to like me. On the other hand, boy, I really want the administration to like me. But I've got to take, I think, your side on this. If Sean Fitz is reliable, I've got to take 60% of your sides on this. And I got to say, here's the way I look at it. If I were a famous gladiator, let's say, it's reasonable. I could see that about myself. But if I were a fighter, if I were a famous swordsman, but I only did my fighting at night, and then all of a sudden someone came up on me at 3:30 in the afternoon one day, I would not hesitate to pull out that sword just because the sun was still shining. It's a weapon I have, and I'm going to use it because it is the best way I can defend myself. The whiteout is a weapon that Penn State has, and having experienced it, I know it means a lot. And those numbers I just read tell you the whiteout means something. I couldn't care less what time they kick the Ohio State game off. If I'm running operations up there, I'm whiting that thing out. And Minnesota can be what Minnesota is. I feel good about my chances against them either way. In fact, if I'm losing to Minnesota at home this year, I got bigger problems that the whiteout even can't solve. Ohio State is getting the whiteout treatment from me. Side note, I may very well be at that game. So regardless of what you're wearing in the stands, you know what your boy here will be wearing.